Now we're in the main event.
Okay, here we go. This is it, the main event. Rock versus Brock with Paul Heyman in his corner. Now, this too has a nice build up, but it's a brief one. It basically Brock Lesnar is new to the company. He's been there, since probably right after WrestleMania, I believe. And in that time, just every week, squash match after squash match, but guys like Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, and just working his way through not little dudes. I mean, like he's going after the whole roster, undefeated, gets to the King of the Ring, makes it to the last match of the King of the Ring against Rob Van Dam. Up until that point, we really hadn't seen Lesnar have too much of an actual match. It was always him coming out there, maybe a suplex and an F5, and that was about it, which at the time was sort of working against him because people were just thinking he was a Goldberg type of character, and but the reality of it is that he's an NCAA champion, and he knows how to wrestle as good as anybody. Or better, I should say. So but you just hadn't seen it yet, so you see a little bit of it with the match at King of the Ring, and it's clear that he does know how to work. It's not a very long match or anything, but there's no reason for the whole idea is still that he's so powerful that he's just gonna put you down, and RVD took him to the limit and made him have to work for it like nobody else did.
But that was fine. That was perfect
up until that point. But yeah. It was good.
Just stretch him out a little bit. Yeah.
I wasn't surprised at the result, but I was a little disappointed that RVD did not become King of the Ring. But that's just because he's my guy. But the stipulation that came along with winning King of the Ring was that you also got to go to the main event at SummerSlam and challenge for the Undisputed Championship. So after King of the Ring, the champion at the time was Undertaker. So people are thinking we're going to see Brock and Undertaker at SummerSlam. But there was a triple threat match at Vengeance the next month for the Undisputed Championship between Undertaker, Kurt Angle, and The Rock, which is a fantastic match. Totally worth going back and watch that one. That is a great match. But in the course of that match, spoiler alert, The Rock wins the title. So now everybody knows, okay, we're looking at Brock versus The Rock. And so the promos start going, and they're showing training promos. And I love this. I love when they do the training promos, especially with guys that, that it applies to. Like, these guys are both college athletes. The Rock, from playing football, and Brock being a wrestler. And they're showing like The Rock in Miami, like running the stadium stairs and things like that. And then they show Brock on the farm, doing his workout and carrying logs on his back, and then jumping into ice baths and all this stuff. Love the buildup. Paul Heyman is just absolutely on fire. He has found his guy. This is still just the very, very infancy of his relationship with Brock. I mean, it just and who would have thought that for a manager and a wrestler to stay together as long as they did, so consistently. I mean, just
it was a great combination.
Great combination.
I love Paulie. I always love Paulie.
He is the best, man. He's fantastic. And the day that they got him and Brock Lesnar together was just a match made in heaven. It was absolutely perfect. So going into this match, it's a big deal. Brock's undefeated. He's 21 years old. He's an absolute monster that nobody can take their eyes off of, because he comes out and it's a spectacle. I mean, especially then, there was nobody on the roster who looked like him. There were big guys, but this guy just was so symmetrically solid and big that it just and just mean looking. He looked like the bully on the playground. I mean, he just exuded this heel look, and all he had was his black trunks and his boots, and he went out there and was just beating the crap out of everybody. The Rock's got a little more finesse. He certainly has more experience and everything. And
The
you
Rock
know,
was only like 31-ish at the time too, so he's
no. Oh,
still in his
and
prime.
he's just getting into the whole movie thing at this point too.
Yeah.
Like I think he had done Scorpion King or something by this point, but that was really about it, you know.
Right.
But he's in fantastic shape for this match. The Rock looked awesome. And at the time, it was kind of like around the time when The Rock was just starting to get that sort of physique, because you know, Nation of Domination, stuff like that. He always kind of was a softer guy, you know.
Yeah, big muscles, but yeah,
Yeah,
not
big guy,
the
but
definition, the cut.
he wasn't really sporting, you know, any real major abs or anything like that. But like, but now this Rock, you know, from this era was a leaner one for sure, you know, and now he's just an insane gorilla. But
I'm sure it's all natural.
but but so, you know, two guys in incredible shape, you know, and so here we go. We get to the match. We have referee Mike Chioda officiating this one to round out all of our refs for the day.
I thought an interesting choice, Mike Chioda. I mean, certainly a veteran ref, good ref. I would have thought that they would have given it to Hebner. So I would have thought they might have, yeah,
like switch them out. Yeah, you know, honestly, I think if they hadn't had the Triple H Shawn Michaels match, it would have been Hebner. But I think having Hebner, Hebner being in that match was more important than being in the match with Rock and Brock.
True, probably. Yeah.
Chioda was more or less, well, and here's the other thing too, is the refs were delegated to specific shows too. So Chioda was like the senior ref for SmackDown. So and Hebner was senior ref for Raw. So at the time, it made sense for him to be the one calling the match. And in the company, he was probably like the second, ref on the ladder down from him. And, you know, maybe him and Charles Robinson or something like that.
I think he might have been above Robinson, because he was with the company, I think, longer. Robinson came over.
He came from WCW. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I know he came from WCW. I think Chioda was around longer.
Yeah. Well, either way, he was calling this one, calls it right down the middle, as always. We had no chicanery from any of the refs. Everyone called it straight down the middle. Nobody missed anything. There were no controversial, no controversial endings or anything.
Nick Patrick.
So they show a great package before the match starts and everything, and then Brock comes on down to the ring. The Rock's music hits, and the Rock runs to the ring, sprints down to the ring, and then jumps in and is immediately doing his Rock like slaps to the face type of thing. You know, so he's trying to start this match off with a lot of energy. You know, personally, I would not want to waste my energy racing down to the ring, but it is a ramp. I guess you're going downhill. So, but I get it. It is more of an exciting entrance to get things going. Well, one of the things I noticed is, man, The Rock really loves selling the mouth. Like, he will open his mouth as wide as he can. Like if he's in a hold or something like that, he closes his eyes and it's just like, like just as wide as and he does it so much. I mean, it's his go-to face. I mean, you could just see down his throat into his gut. I mean, it's like it's really nuts. For as long as as much as he had a longer match with Rob Van Dam, I think up to this point, this is the longest match that Brock has wrestled. So it's the main event at SummerSlam. It's got to be have a little bit of time on it. Do you have a time on it? Do you know?
I do have a time on it. It was 15 minutes 50 seconds, almost 16 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's a long match at the time for Brock Lesnar. It was very interesting, the crowd reaction. Let's talk about that, because there was definitely there was a lot. It was very hard to tell where they stood, because there were times where like the crowd seemed firmly against The Rock, and then there were times where they were cheering for him too.
I think it went back and forth. I don't think it was a matter of a Rock section and a Brock section. I think it kind of went back and forth. I think they went with the match.
Yeah, I agree, and that's interesting. I mean, that's a really tough thing to cultivate, where like you can have a crowd like changing their mind about like who they want. I mean,
multiple times.
yeah, people usually, maybe you might get someone, to switch off and then pick another guy, but yeah, like you said, go back and forth multiple times. That's I don't even know. I wouldn't even know how to do that from a psychology standpoint.
Well, here's the one that I will compare it to.
I don't know that you can manufacture it. I think it's just
No.
something that, yeah.
But I will compare it to when Piper fought Bret Hart over
Yeah.
over the IC title. The crowd was kind of divided on that and back and forth. Like they kind of just cheered everything. But in here, this was a very strange crowd reaction.
So like The Rock, I think, gets Brock in like the sharpshooter at some point or whatever, and the crowd just is booing him. They're booing The Rock, and The Rock's looking around, and then he's The Rock would never actually speak, but he would just mouth words and stuff like that. And I could see what he was mouthing, and it wasn't anything he could have said out loud. So he was telling Long Island, what he thought of them. But then, so it's like what you would think would just feed them even more into not liking him. But like you said, then, a few minutes later, they
were back on it.
They're back on it, and they're cheering for him. Yeah, it's like if Brock starts going after him, or they're, then they're booing Brock, and then you're hearing Rocky chants, and it is a credit to them that after that Shawn Michaels Triple H match, they were able to get that crowd up again and get them excited. I mean, the fact that they were cheering and they were booing and they were chanting and everything at the very end of the night, the last match. I mean, because they're not just tired from that match, but they're tired from this entire show. I mean, Finkel alone might have sucked the life out of them. So so good on them for being able to get that crowd back up and going again. There was so much anticipation about it, and people were genuinely really excited about this match, and
they delivered.
And it was a great match. They I think they showcased Brock very well. Rock played his part in this very well. It was one of those things too, where, just even the name, like, Rock versus the Rock versus Brock, it was like the marquee just added to it as well.
It's not something I would mock.
You just had to bring us to a screeching halt.
Or sock.
Okay. Anyway, so near the end of the match, it's the end of the night, so the Spanish announce table is certainly up for grabs at this point. And so a big moment there was Paul Heyman gets rock bottomed through the Spanish announce table. Now, this is a big thing when you're a manager, is at some point the thing is, if you're a heel manager like that, especially if you're a real weasel like he is, you get away with 99% of what you do, but at some point you got to get your comeuppance. You got to get, and that's why managers need to know how to, like, take a bump and things.
Bobby Heenan theories.
Yeah. So for The Rock to finally have gotten his hands on, and the thing is that even at the time, I mean, Brock and Heyman had only been, together for, maybe 5 months or something like that. Heyman had, however, been in the company, though, as part of the, invasion and all that and everything, and had been a bad guy. So there were a lot, and he never really got anything up until that point. I think that was the first time since he came in the company that someone finally did something to
But
him.
kudos for him for taking it and selling it well.
Oh yeah, well, he may not have
had a wrestler. Clearly,
he may not have had us do much selling, man. I mean, getting rock bottom through that table, it's not comfortable, man.
And he clearly not in shape. So
And then Taz, so anyway, so they go back into the ring, Rock and Brock, and Brock ends up hitting Rock with a rock bottom.
See, now I don't like that. I don't like these. I don't like these using the other guy's moves. I don't like it.
my problem with it is it almost never seems to work. Like,
well, that's true too.
It's very rare that somebody hits him with the move and then they pin him and they win. You know, it's very rare. They'll like one guy hits him with the other guy's move, and then the other guy does the same thing back to him. And neither one of them, it doesn't, you know, it just levels it out and nothing ever happens, you know.
But you want the move to be special. You want it to be his move. Now, if Brock is using the right,
Well, it's supposed to be an insult, you know. It's like, I'm going to beat you with your own move type of thing. I mean, I get the psychology of that, but like, if it never really works, then it just, at a certain point, it's like every time they do it, it's just, to me, it's wasted. It's a wasted move, because if I see, like, you know, if somebody did the curb stop to Seth Rollins or something like that, well, maybe that's a little extreme of, you know, but, you know, I just wouldn't expect them to win, because it never happens. It just never happens.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of it.
But leave it to Taz, who then immediately coins it the Brock Bottom.
Yeah, I love that though.
He just, he's like, oh, that's the Brock Bottom.
You think that was planned, or did that just hit him?
Oh, I'm sure that one was in the book. I'm sure that was there at the Brock Bottom, because you never know. They may have thought it might catch on and actually, you know, become a move for him or something. Yeah, or something. Yeah. Now Brock ends up winning, finally hits him with the F5, you know, which he only had to hit him with one,
right?
Which to me, I like, because I think it's too often these days where guys are now having to use their finisher 2-3 times in a big match. And I think the finisher should be the finisher. Like, if
it's called a finisher for a reason,
right? I mean, if he hits the F5, that's it. It's done. I mean, it should be. And so he hits the F5 and he gets him, and he gets the win. I was thinking about The Rock, because he does do the people's elbow in this, or he tries to. I think he gets cut off. But he does go through the routine at least. And I was thinking, I'm like, this guy must not buy very expensive elbow pads, because every time he does this, he's throwing one out into the crowd.
Well, I mean, come on. I think Rock could afford elbow pads.
I know, but I think they just don't look, well, they don't look like they're nice pads either. I was looking at
how much could they cost? $100 even?
Well, no, I would hope not. Whatever
he's
he's wearing are not $100 pads. I know that much. I mean, like,
millionaire, so he's throwing out. That's like, you know, us throwing out $1.
I guess. But anyway, you know, but yeah, we talked about it before. Yeah, the people's elbow is one of the more ridiculous moves ever, because it's just an elbow, and all he does is run back and forth in the ring,
which then gives the person time to recuperate.
Well, and the thing is, it's not like it builds up momentum for the elbow, because he comes to a dead stop
right
before he drops.
Then he does the little dance thingy. And, yeah.
So
it could be the goofiest move for any, like, Hall of Fame champion.
The problem is, I mean, look, as a wrestling fan, I mean, I like it because I get it, it's entertaining, it's different, you know, and everything. But the problem that I have is that when people who don't watch wrestling, and that's like their first day, you know, every show is the first day someone is seeing pro wrestling, okay? And they're going to see this and say, why the hell didn't the guy get up and move? Or what the hell was that? Why did any of that,
wasting time?
Why did any of that make that hurt any more than it would have if he had just dropped an elbow on him? And then they just are like, this is just ridiculous, and it's so nonsensical and everything. And so, as a wrestling fan, you forgive all of these things, and, you know, you just kind of go along with it and everything. And, you know, I like the Rock Bottom, but I'm just saying that it is ridiculous at its core.
Well, no, I like the Rock Bottom. I don't like the people's elbow. Can't we separate the two?
No. That's what I meant to say. People's elbow.
Oh,
I misspoke. No. No, Rock Bottom makes sense. Yeah, you get slammed on your back. Yeah, totally. The stunner
makes boom, right to the pin. Done.
Right. Brock, you know, given that he was a rookie on the main roster, I thought this was a fantastic match. I mean, for a guy who's only been on the main roster coming up from Florida for about 5 months, I mean, and go main
60
event.
minutes.
Yeah, main event with The Rock at SummerSlam, didn't screw anything up.
No,
You know, nobody got hurt, and there was not some sort of like Goldberg match or anything like that. I mean, like, he wrestled a really solid pro wrestling match.
absolutely. Yeah.
And at the time, at 21 years old, he was the youngest WWE undisputed champion in history,
Yeah.
which would
Future looked bright.
he would inevitably be dethroned by Orton a couple years later when he won his title at SummerSlam against Chris Benoit.